4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Sorry, it's actually not Zach Gelb. And I just had this epiphany. I feel really badly for all those people who are attempting to take a snoozer at the desk, or if they're working from home, thought maybe, just maybe, I can rest my eyes for a couple of seconds. In fact, that Google Meet or Zoom call, there's no video, and then the music comes on. Whoa! So you have me instead of Zach Gelb, and I've already decided. Stu and Samter asked me about 10 seconds ago, hey, do you want yourself on video up in studio? Do you want us to turn it off? Right, 5 seconds in, I already feel like I have to turn my back. It's way distracting. I don't need to see myself on camera. And here comes Samter. Thank you, Samter. I feel like I'm going to be mesmerized and staring and obsessed, so let's turn it off. It's a little bit like MMA in studio overnight when sometimes it's left on TV. Thank you, Mike. And I get stuck staring at it, like ogling it. Yeah, no. It's good. I'm going to remember, try not to talk with your hands wildly like a good Italian girl. Don't pick your nose. I don't pick my nose. Don't make crazy faces because I do that. And don't look at yourself. But we have the Zoom, and we have it set up for our guest today. And, of course, you're watching on CBS Sports Radio YouTube. So you can watch, I can talk. It all works out well. Who am I? Well, I'm a possum, actually. I kind of feel like a possum now because I have ventured outside disoriented during the daytime when normally I inhabit the night and I'm active at night. Don't take that the wrong way. I normally host After Hours with Amy Lawrence here on CBS Sports Radio. Instead, they've kind of shoved me into this afternoon time slot, whether you're on the East Coast and it's 3 o'clock and you're checking out early. Don't do it. Or whether you're just getting your lunch on the West Coast and it's noon for you. We're glad that you're with us. Happy day to you. I'm going to say it's the Zach Gelb Show about 1,800 times so that I can remember it's his show and not my show. I think the last time I did this show with Stu and Samter, I maybe got caught a few times accidentally saying the name of my own show. But in all fairness, it's been almost 12 years now. So there's a long pattern there. Anyway, happy Friday to you. Glad to be working with Stu and Samter again. We've got a full lineup for you. We're excited. We're ready to go. The Combine, you know, that thing in Indianapolis that used to be 4 days and is now more like 4 weeks. It is going on and on and on and on. And every little bit of it is televised now on NFL Network and on other sports networks. It's become a behemoth of an event. And the part that makes me laugh is that it used to be more under wraps except for the workouts, right? The drills, the workouts, all right, a little bit with the interviews mixed in. What we didn't know behind the scenes is that it's also a convention for agents. So every player rep who's licensed is expected to be there in Indianapolis for this event. It's also an NFL convention where, of course, there's coaches and GMs and scouts and all that jazz. But it's now become the next, actually probably the first big step in the NFL's offseason, where it's a showcase because it's been 3 weeks since the Super Bowl and the NFL can't stand it. Can't stand being out of the spotlight for 3 weeks. That is unheard of. And I've said this before, maybe even here when I filled in the past. The NFL is a jealous lover. Can't stand it when you start paying attention to anything else. For instance, college basketball or the NBA or even hockey, MLS, whatever it is. The NFL gets really jealous. And so for that reason, this event, it used to be 4 days. It kind of minded its own business. We had a few of the drills on TV. Now it's everything, and it's in prime time. It's like the media day event that is now in prime time on Monday nights during Super Bowl week. So you have no choice but to pay attention to it. It's in your face. For that reason, so the NFL, I believe, has been a bit of a victim of its own success here, or a victim of its urban sprawl. Okay, so that's what I call the NFL. It just kind of sprawls out every day of the week, every month of the year. There's really no off season. The issue is, of course, that because the Combine has turned into such a massive event where it's 2 weeks long and it's everybody in football that's there, the comings and goings are reported. Everybody has a microphone stuck in front of their faces. Here I am talking with my hands. I didn't even make it like 3 minutes. Because of that, you now have player reps as well as PR reps who are telling their athletes, you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. And I honestly believe that's partly because the NFL has turned this into such a showcase. Now, great. We get to see some of the stars of the future. I think that's cool. We get to know them a little bit. Samter reminded me earlier, CJ Stroud had a great combine last year, really impressed a lot of people. But for athletes like Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, some of the others, where they already know they're going at the top of the draft and where they're already being scrutinized 7 ways to Sunday, there really isn't a whole lot that they can gain by either working out there when it's not in their comfort zone, right? They'll have their pro days, they'll meet individually and do private workouts with the teams that are uber interested. What is there to gain except potentially a flub up or a bad day, or in the case of the medicals, you know how players in the past have talked about the medicals being at 3:00 in the morning or 11:30 at night, and then they're dragged out of their beds again to go through drills and whatever else. There really isn't a whole lot to gain. In fact, what the NFL is trying to do, I think in the past, maybe not now, is put these athletes under duress so that teams can see how they perform on less sleep and when they're not feeling their best. But again, that doesn't benefit the athlete. And with so many eyeballs on the combine and with so many people there, all they do is get nitpicked and poked and prodded, both physically and mentally and even emotionally. Here's a great example. Caleb Williams, right now, #1 story at the combine and certainly the NFL draft, at least until we know what the Bears are doing, right? Once we figure out if the Bears are going that direction or a different direction, because there has been a little bit chatter about them actually being in love with a different quarterback at #1. Regardless, at this point, he is the #1 story. And having gone through his college games at USC and all the scrutiny that's been on him, think Trevor Lawrence, who was a projected #1 pick when he was a freshman. We knew that about him. Caleb has been schooled. You can tell when you hear his answers that a PR rep has worked with him, probably a media consultant has worked with him to get him ready for the questions. But even so, nothing can prepare you for the introduction to the media as he gets a bazillion microphones stuck in front of his face and he barely has a chance to greet the people who are staring at him.
Good morning, everybody.
Are you afraid to compete? How do you respond to people saying that you're worried to be compared side by side with your peers in medicals, measurements, and workouts? Are you afraid to be measured against those guys one-on-one? Is that why you're not doing things?
No, not doing things. It was a decision by me and my team, my family, and it comes down to that.
Nothing else? That's the first thing that you can think of to ask him is, are you afraid to compete? First of all, Media 101. If you put your guest, your interview, whoever it is that you're trying to get information from, if you put them on the defensive in the first 10 seconds of your conversation, guess what you're getting? A whole lot of nothing. I don't know who that reporter was. I have no idea the outlet. I just know that this is an example of what Caleb Williams is up against, right? Ever since we started to see him blossom as a talent, ever since the USC arc and the attention on all of his games. But then remember, of course, the one game that they lost. It's a really emotional game, left it all out on the field, and then cried to his parents when they lost. Got picked apart a bazillion ways. Again, afraid to compete, can't handle losing, can't handle pressure, can't handle the emotion, blah, 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 blah. The man says good morning. And the question is, are you afraid? And he can't win. He can't win by saying or getting defensive or trying to defend himself. He can't wade into the weeds or get stuck in the quicksand with these questions, with these reporters, because it does him no good. And so I understand and actually applaud his team for taking a different route, for deciding not only he won't throw at the combine, which again, it's better for him if he is in his comfort zone, if you will, with people that he's familiar with. I understand that fewer and fewer of the high profile prospects are really going to work out at the combine. Again, this is partly because the NFL has turned this into a behemoth and a massive machine, and it works to their detriment. It works to the detriment of the players. There's too many eyeballs there. There's too many people who want to get their 15 seconds of fame. So I can understand why the guys at the top really don't have to impress anyone. They have nothing to gain. Why not do it in a space where you're more comfortable, where there are fewer people allowed, where you can control it, right? Where you can control the environment. But in Caleb's case, he and his team have also decided not to go through medicals, which is unheard of. How dare you? This is the NFL. We get our guys to check you out. All 32 teams, because they can't share medical records, all 32 teams have to run their own medical exams. So he and his team said no. The teams that are actually serious, the franchises that really are interested and that we believe could choose us in this upcoming NFL draft, those are the ones with whom we will do the medical tests. It's actually kind of brilliant. Again, you can control the environment. You can limit the number of times you have to go through these medical tests and answer these questions. And let's be fair. What do we love about social media and about the voyeur social media option in 2024? It's all access all the time. The less access Caleb Williams gives, the more he is in demand. It is a supply and demand equation. Now, I don't think that's why he's doing it, and that's why his team's doing it. But just by virtue of their decisions, more and more people are going to be scrambling and wondering and left wanting and waiting. It's the Zach Gelb Show. I'm Amy Lawrence filling in for Zach here on CBS Sports Radio. Maybe the questions got a little less intrusive after the first one. Are you afraid? Just put yourself in his shoes. You say good morning. Are you afraid? That's what you get. It's really ridiculous. But then he starts getting questions about his size, which actually doesn't sound like he was ready for that one. His team didn't prepare him for a question about his size.
It's the first time I'm hearing about my height and size. I'm around Aaron Rodgers' size and maybe weight too. 215, 220, and 6'1", 6'2".
What is there? What's the question? Again, people are making things up just to try to get in his face and to see if they can get a piece of Caleb Williams. Actually, I like the fact that he's so well prepared. And it's true that he and his media team, trust me on this, have schooled him, have drilled him, probably put him through mock media sessions, all of these things to get him ready. They don't want him to say anything that will hurt his chances. He doesn't want to say anything that will hurt his chances. Because when you get to the point where NFL teams are going to invest a mint in you and they're going to hitch their wagon to your star, well, they want to know everything. They do actually want to put you through the ringer. But what happens is you end up having them nitpick about little things that really don't matter. And so, again, why not control the environment? So maybe the size question he wasn't prepared for. But I like the fact that he's controlled, he's measured. He actually comes across as a lot more professional than that reporter who yelled at him, "Are you afraid?" Yeah, he sounds like a guy who's got a handle on the process.
I don't compare myself to the other guys, that's there, been there. I think I'm my own player, and, I tend to like to, create history and rewrite history.
So with Caleb Williams, I don't know who came up with the question, but there are some lingering questions because of the crying and whether or not he's afraid of the competition, which, again, it seems so ridiculous. You don't get to that point. You don't get to perform as well as he has if you're afraid of competition. So he's measured. He's ready for most of these questions. But, he's not alone because J.J. McCarthy is facing questions about how little he has on tape and how little he has played in college. Also, how little he threw in a Jim Harbaugh system that was based on the run. Forget the fact that they won the national championship and Harbaugh will rave about him. Harbaugh, who's a former NFL quarterback and just took a new job back in the NFL as a head coach. But again, I like the way that JJ handles his business. I like the fact that even though there are a ton of questions, the way that he would describe himself in a measured, controlled way is, hey, I'm ready for this.
I would say, tough, gritty guy who only cares about winning at the end of the day. Loves the game of football with a burning passion, loves his teammates. Just pretty much everything you would want in a starting quarterback, I would say.
So J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams and Michael Penix and the others answering questions on Friday at the Combine. And if that's all they have to do, it seems like enough. Gosh, it's stressful. How many I would say how many reporters, if they face the same line of questioning, might crack just a little bit. Are you afraid? Are you not entertained? That's what I was thinking of. It's over the top. That's what's happening now. And so the NFL, you maybe want to think about dialing back, although I'm not sure you can put the genie back in the bottle, because a lot of these prospects are actually going to start doing less and less at the Combine, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them don't even show up. Sure, you can meet with teams, but if you're as good as Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy, they're going to want to meet with you regardless, and you can do it on your own terms and on your own turf, if you will. Interestingly enough, though, Michael Penix actually went through medicals with all 32 teams because he had a question about some of the injuries in his knees and that kind of thing. But he sounds like he's ready to go, and he's been checked out by some of the top doctors. So we'll see how it shakes out with these three dudes and some of the others at the top of the draft. But, man, are there quarterback questions or what? There are a lot of them. I was making a list, and I ran out of room on my page. Although, wait until I tell you how I got duped. Yep, I was texting Samter just a few hours ago. There's a trade. There's a trade. These days, you can't believe Jack that you see on social media. He was actually feeding his baby and still figured out that I was duped, but nice enough not to say it. What he said was, well, I don't see it, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. Thank you, Samter. I had to explain to the hubs what duped meant. I got duped. I got tricked.
I tried my best to be as clear that I don't see it anywhere, but yes, it worked out great.
Right. And actually, I got duped by 2 accounts, not just one. So I was thinking I had confirmation. Nope, that was a fake as well. A deep fake. AI, it's everywhere. Actually, it wasn't even that well disguised. I can't blame AI. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. Coming up, we have got a bit of a debate going on here about, and maybe it has to do with age, I don't know, about what we do better now in our lives than we did in college. We will explain, but I think it's 2-1 right now. And so we'll let you figure out which category you belong in. Yes, there's a lot of skills you have now that you didn't have in college, or things you do better now than you did in college, or no. Samter. So on Twitter, A-Law Radio, or CBS Sports Radio Twitter is easy too. Glad to have you with us. So glad I'm not seeing myself on screen anymore, waving my hands wildly. Hello. It's the Zach Gelb Show. It's a Friday afternoon here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
Here he is. No, he's not. I wonder if I could convince anybody of that. Probably not. Although I do have a voice like a man most of the time. Oh, especially when I have a cold or when I have laryngitis. I sound like one of those old lounge singers. Not today, I hope. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, get to ask us a question. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at CBS Sports Radio or on my Twitter, ALaw Radio, using the hashtag #AskThePros, and then be listening later in the show because you dare not tune out. We might answer your question. You can think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of your car care needs while you're waiting. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. If I was really good at my job, I'd have that memorized. I don't. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on a Friday. Tom Brady has, yes, Tom Brady, still in the news. Tom Brady has posted video of himself on Twitter. And I have to say it's kind of ingenious. As the combine is taking place, he is proving to people that he's in better shape now and a better athlete now and theoretically can run faster than he did at his own combine 24 years ago. So you can check out the video on his account. They've actually superimposed the footage from when he was a prospect Isn't that weird to say about Tom Brady? He was a prospect coming out of Michigan. And they've put the new video almost side by side, like not just the throwing, but also him running. Now, according to 2 stopwatches from 2 friends of his that were there for this blessed event, he is a smidge faster than he was when he ran the 40 at the combine. Okay, here's the thing. You look at his body, he actually looks like he's in a lot better shape now than he does then. And maybe there are a bunch of you out there that could say the same thing about your college days. Be honest, you're in better shape now than you were then. So I guess it's not that hard to believe, because think about the millions of dollars he sunk into the TB12 method and being as durable and pliable and flexible, and all of the changes in his diet. Oh my goodness, we have him to thank for avocado toast. Just all of these different ways that he preserved his longevity. Now, he still made a living in the NFL on not getting hit. But if he did get hit, he could absorb a blow. And he was really durable. Other than the 1 year with the torn ACL, he hardly ever missed. And so there's something to it. They've been able to market it. He's now 46 years old. So it is sort of funny, because how many of us 25 years later would be able to run a 40-yard dash, or I think a 50-yard dash is what we did at field day, right? How many of us would be able to do that faster now than going back a quarter century ago? Now, we're talking about him shaving just a teeny little bit of time off of the 40. It's not like he's turned into Tyreek Hill all of a sudden. But tenths of a second, hundredths of a second, it's still impressive, right? So I got to credit Samter for this brilliant question, but the question is where we diverge. So he texted me last night after, of course, letting me know that politely I've been duped by a trade on social media. And he said, what do you do better now than when you were in college? He puts in parentheses, nothing. Except I can probably come up with a list of a dozen things I do better now than in college. Now,
and just for the record, not to cut you off,
yeah.
I said me, nothing,
right.
not you,
Yeah,
nothing.
right. No, I agree.
Okay,
oh, sorry. I hope I phrased that correctly. Nothing, Samter. You can't think of anything at all that you do better. There's a camera right between me and you, so I'm looking around. You can't think of even one skill that you have perfected or that you've improved on that you couldn't do in college?
There are like work skills and maybe mental skills, but nothing physical. There's not a single physical activity that I'm better at today than I was in college. Just for example, I've just gotten 2 shots in my hand because apparently holding my baby is so stressful for my wrist that it's causing damage to my thumb and my tendons. So, like, I can't even hold my baby.
Wait, just from holding your baby?
I can't even hold my baby, who's like tiny, like me, without injuring myself. So, like, no, my physical well-being is nowhere near where it was in college. I can't run as fast. I can't shoot a basketball as well. I can't bike as fast. I can't do anything physically better than I did when I was in college.
Okay. Even if we're just limiting it to physical skills, I still can think of at least 3. Stu, what about you? Can you think of anything you do better now than college?
Yeah, if we give it to physical stuff, I guess there's less, right? Like I could drive better, I could multitask better, I could do all that stuff better. Physically, I mean, I feel like I'm in better shape than I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like 15 pounds lighter probably. So that's one thing. I probably sleep better. Does that count? Like,
yes.
In college,
that skill is so valuable.
I feel like I was sleeping like 4 hours. Now I can at least like feel like I can sleep more.
No, I would agree with that. Although I never thought I'd pull so many all-nighters after I got out of college. Here's one thing, just a physical skill that I know is better now than in college. I played so much softball when I was in high school and college that I could not hit a golf ball because I was constantly trying to hit the golf ball off a tee or the ground the way that I would hit a softball, and it's a completely different mechanism. So it took me a long time, but now I can actually golf. I don't know what that means about my softball game, but I can hit a driver now, hit a ball off a tee, where I couldn't do that when I was in college because I really couldn't get the motion separate. But also running. I was more of a sprinter when I played college basketball, even though I was such a compliment. I've got the big girl in the middle. That's what people used to yell when you get on the court. Anyway, I could never run long distance. I didn't run my first half marathon until I was in my 40s. So that's definitely, I'm not saying I do it fast, but I don't know. I feel like we get better with age, Mike Samter. Maybe not your wrist, but other things.
Yeah, no, listen, there's definitely things I'm way better at. I feel like I've improved myself as a human being. I just wish I could play myself in basketball at that point. 18-year-old Samter, 21-year-old Samter would beat 43-year-old Samter 18-0. It would be
But see, there's something to be said for being crafty and clever and smart. It's not just about speed and explosiveness for 18-year-old Samter. You got to know the game.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a little bit of the game, but nothing that I can actually apply on the court. Nothing that would actually help me. I mean, maybe you'll get me one extra basket.
I thought of a few more things that we'll say, but we want to hear from you. So on Twitter, A-Law Radio, or at CBS Sports Radio, what is one thing, whether it's a physical skill, probably not mentally, because I hope we're all smarter now than we were when we were in college. What's one skill that you are so much better at now than you were when you were 18, 19, 20, 21? It's an interesting question. Really interesting. Coming up, I got lots of questions for player agent Kelly Masters, who's in Indianapolis, getting her clients prepared for the draft. Would she tell her people not to work out, not to answer questions, not to go through medicals? What's the benefit of that? We'll ask her. Plus the buzz among the agents, too. I almost said it. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Zach, and here's our latest sports update. Here's Rich Ackerman.
Sports Flash.
Claiming a solid veteran safety is now on the market, with the Eagles reportedly releasing Kevin Byard, who was acquired midseason from Tennessee for a 5th and 6th round pick along with Terrell Edmonds. The Saints are also cutting safety Marcus May, who is entering the final year of a 3-year deal. Alabama defensive back Kool-Aid McKinstry has a Jones fracture in his right foot. The injury was discovered at the combine and will require surgery. He should be ready for training camp. The Bucs went 30-13 and then decided it wasn't good enough and made a coaching change, and then got off to a rocky start under Doc Rivers, but have since made a nice turnaround, winning 6 of the last 8. They take a 4-game winning streak into Chicago tonight. Giannis Antetokounmpo said everything right now is clicking.
The difference is that we know we have direction right now. We know what to try to get from every position. Every position counts, and we are making shots. Guys are making shots.
They're currently tied for second in the East with the Cavaliers, 8 games behind the Celtics. The East leaders go for their 10th straight when they host the Mavericks, while the Cavaliers are in action in Detroit. I'm Rich Ackerman.
What's going on, everybody? This is JR. Join me here on CBS Sports Radio for the JR Sport Brief. Weeknights, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
It helps if I turn my microphone on. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Zach Gelb. And for that reason, this is a guest that you're not going to hear really anywhere else. She and I have been friends for a long time. In fact, when we talk about things that we do so much better now than when we were in college, oh my goodness, Kelly knows all the secrets. She is the founder and the lead agent for KMM Sports, Kelly Masters Management, now repping a dozen players, including 4 free agents. I got a dozen more in the draft. Have you, sister. Kelly, thank you so much for a couple of minutes. It's good to see your face.
It's so good to see you too, Amy. This is so great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. What's the buzz in Indy this week? Because it's not just about the players anymore. Now it's about agents and it's about coaches. It's about trades. It's about all kinds of NFL offseason news.
Oh my gosh. So it's always funny. And I've been coming to the combine now for 19 years, which I can't even believe. And I think everyone thinks that we all just come here and we watch players run their 40s. That's all that happens. And really, like it's that, but there's like 90% of the rest of it is everything else. So there are meetings happening regarding coaching, regarding free agency, regarding, the salary cap was just announced. And so now we know what numbers we're dealing with, which is, mind blowing to me. If you told me where we were going to be even 5 years ago, I think it's incredible to see what's happened. But yeah, there's so much happening and so many conversations that are happening that are, I think, really interesting this year with regard to what's going to happen in the draft, who's going to make what moves. And yeah, I think there may be maybe going to be some surprises coming out of this draft. As always, there are players that are, doing things a little differently, deciding not to participate in certain aspects, deciding not to show up for press conferences. So I think players are, you're just seeing them kind of be a little bit more, like take a little bit more control and ownership of the process and saying, okay, I'm not going to do this test, this cognitive test, and I'm not going to talk to, whatever teams. And I think more than ever, we're seeing players and agents being really bold, and some players without agents being bold. So very different dynamic this year than in years past.
Why would you, as a player rep, recommend to a client not to work out, not to throw if it's a quarterback, not to run through drills, or in the case of Caleb Williams, not to go through medicals, which is nearly unheard of?
It's nearly unheard of. And I think back to my first client that I had at the combine was Gerald McCoy. And of course, Gerald ended up going number 3 overall, but he had been asked to do by a couple of teams to take an MRI or to do an MRI full body. And Gerald, and I can share this story because I have his permission. He is so claustrophobic that he literally thought he was going to be crushed to death in the MRI machine and did not want to do it. And as an agent, I sat in the room with him, found an open MRI in Indianapolis, and sat in the room with him for 4 hours just to get him through one test, to get an MRI, mainly because I knew, and apparently maybe things have changed. I knew that if we refused a medical evaluation, that could be a red flag. And that could be a reason for a team to maybe not, but why create any red flags unnecessarily or issues unnecessarily? Some players just have the leverage now to do that. And at the same time, the combine is where all the eyeballs, everyone's focused on Indianapolis for this week. But the draft process has been ongoing for a long time, and it's going to continue, throughout, players' careers. They are evaluated for their entire body of work, and then they'll be brought in by each team on top 30 visits to have their own team doctors evaluate players that they're interested in. And so those things are going to happen. A team is going to want to know everything about a player before they draft them. And that doesn't necessarily have to happen in the combine. That's also why a lot of players are advised to or decide to not work out. Maybe they feel like they would rather, especially for a quarterback, they would rather throw to receivers that they feel comfortable throwing to and have some confidence that their performance is not going to be impacted by the performance or lack thereof of the receivers they're throwing to at the combine. There may be players that are overcoming a nagging injury that they just feel like they need more time to heal before they run or lift or do any sort of the drills. There are so many different reasons why you would not want to work out. And I think teams understand that. All teams want to see, the players that they came here to see? Do they want to see them take advantage of every opportunity? Absolutely. But I also think they understand that there are reasons for players wanting to put their best foot forward, wanting to be in the right environment to perform. And then if a team wants to dock a player for deciding not to work out, that's on the team. But yeah, that's an individualized decision that's made for every case.
Well, in that case, with so many pro days, and every school has one, and your prospects, they're all going to be doing the individual pro days, and you're able to control that environment. Is this model of the combine becoming slightly outdated, where it's really not doing the job or the purpose that it was designed to?
That has been a narrative that has been growing and picking up steam for a while now. That, gosh, we are putting players in situations here at the combine where, and we've talked about this for years, maybe decades, that we're bringing players in, we're waking them up early in the morning, 3:30, 4 a.m. to go take drug tests, go get medicals done. They spend all day at the hospital. That's draining. Then they're meeting with teams and doing formal interviews until 11 o'clock at night. They're not getting sleep. They're under stress. And then they have to go give the performance of their lives on the field.
Perfect.
On national television. Yes. After 3 days of being sleep deprived and not getting enough to eat and all those things. And as an agent, when I have players that are participating, I'm doing my best to make sure that they are, as stress-free and as, as little impact as possible, that they are getting rest, but there's only so much we can do. And so there's that aspect of, are we putting players in a position to put their best foot forward, or are we creating this sort of environment where we're testing them to the max at, putting them in their worst possible condition to try to do their best? Is that really helpful? And when we're really just, teams have been studying film for, on players for their entire careers. And a lot of what we see at the combine is really just to check the box. Are these players the players that we think they are, that after watching their film and evaluating them on their body of work? So there's that aspect. And then there's another aspect of technology has changed. There are so many different ways to measure how well a player is going to do. I just met with the company that is doing a lot of the new cognitive testing that teams are using now in the draft process. It's not the Wonderlic. It's a test that can show, is this offensive lineman more likely to jump off sides than this offensive lineman? Wow. And they can test cognitively for those things, as well as just, how are we still timing 40 times with a guy that is controlling the stopwatch? Are we really still doing that? And what's the margin for error there? And so I think it's time, and maybe way past time. And I don't think I'm the only one saying this. There's a lot of people talking about it, that maybe there's a better way that we can evaluate players besides what has become a bit antiquated.
Kelly Masters has Kelly Masters Management and a dozen players in the league, including 4 free agents. So she's busy talking to teams while she's in Indianapolis, plus another dozen players in the draft, including, and this kind of is full circle, Bob Stoops' son, Drake Stoops, who's a wide receiver. That's really neat considering, well, first of all, you and I met in Oklahoma. We've kind of grown up in this business, but talk about a full circle moment to have Bob's son get ready to play in the NFL.
It is so exciting. And I have been, full transparency. I represent players from all over the nation, every conference. I grew up a Sooner fan. My twin sister and I were the baton twirlers, the feature twirlers.
I was hoping you would mention that.
I'm not breaking out the batons though. But we were kind of the twin Oklahoma royalty for the Sooners back in the day in the 90s. And then, fast forward through some kind of rough years before Bob Stoops arrived and took Oklahoma back to a national championship in 2000. And all of us as Sooner fans back then watched Bob's twin boys, which I love twins, being a twin, watched his twin boys kind of grow up in the limelight. Drake and Isaac Stoops, grew up with in the eyes of the Sooner fans. And both ended up playing football. Drake obviously wanted to pursue it at the collegiate level, walked on to play at Oklahoma, and, instantly became a fan favorite. And not only that, not just because, of the name on the back of his jersey and fans having watched him literally grow up for 20 years, he became quite the player and ended up leading the league and having a really, really incredible senior campaign, and almost won the Burlsworth Trophy, and probably should have, in my opinion, as a former walk-on who really, really became a very productive receiver for the Sooners. And he's just, Sooner fans love him. He's a great player. He's, obviously everyone's like, oh, does he really have a shot in the NFL? Well, look at Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Cole Beasley, Hunter Renfrow. There are so many players that he's so similar to, and I know he hates, that comparison, but those are some pretty good comparisons. So it's going to be fun for me, kind of growing up as a Sooner fan and then watching him grow up as the son of Bob Stoops. The thing that I really truly love, a couple things that I love about Drake, besides his on the field abilities, and his testing abilities, which he'll have his pro day on March 12th. Number one, I feel like I'm talking to a young blonde Bob Stoops every time I talk to him. He has that same cadence in his
Sounds like
voice.
him.
Coach speak. He sounds like a coach, and because of that, he interviews so well. And his football intellect, obviously, he grew up around it. The entire Stoops family is football royalty, and so there's definitely that. But what I also love about Drake is he hasn't rested on that. It's not, he doesn't think that the world owes him anything because of who his dad is or the family that he comes from or his last name. He really has sought to make a name for himself. And I'm honored. I'm so proud of all of our guys. But that's a really fun full circle type of situation.
Couple more things I want to cram in with you, Kelly, before we let you go at the top of the hour. You and I have grown up in this business together. And so when we started, there wasn't anyone else to kind of show us the way. I know in sports radio, there are many more women than there used to be, sports radio, TV. Yeah. When you're now in Indianapolis, how many more women do you see who are player reps or are learning that skill?
Oh my goodness, it's incredible. So I just spoke to a conference this morning of people that are wanting to get into the industry, and it's all ages. It's high school students through professionals that are just looking to do something that they're passionate about. And the room is made up of probably more than half women. And it used to be, I've joked about this with some of my friends, there were maybe 2 or 3 of us women here, on the agent side. When I first arrived in Indianapolis in 2005, 6, I guess it was my first year. And we would look around and go, are we the only women in downtown Indianapolis? It's so rare to see a woman. And now that's not the case. There are so many women and not just women, but just people from different backgrounds. And, you're seeing a lot of, I love it. I love seeing a lot of former players are now becoming agents. And so I think the business is opening up. You and I have talked about, there are negatives, obviously, about the agent business. And it's just as crazy and sometimes just as corrupt and dirty as you see in the TV shows and movies. But I love seeing this new generation of agents who are diverse. They want to find ways to really, really help players and see them as people. And so I love seeing kind of that we're shifting to that we really are, there's a real desire, not just to be part of a big agency, but also to really serve and to really help players become everything that they are called to be, both, in and out of the sport. And I'm excited because, as for years and years, it was just me with my company. I was the only agent here with my company. And this year we have 7 agents. And it's really fun to kind of see that generational growth and impact. And agents really just wanting to make a difference. And I think if that's my legacy, not just opening the door for women, but just opening the door for agents who want to make an impact on players' lives and on the world, then that's a pretty neat legacy.
It is. And you have so much more to do. You can find Kelly at KMM Sports. Also, Kelly Masters on IG. She founded her own agency. She's an agent, attorney, and author. High Impact Life, a great book. Love having you on the show with me, Kel. You are my sister forever. Thank you so much for the time.
So great to see you, Amy. Talk to you soon.
Great insight about what's actually happening behind the scenes and why some of these players are taking control when it comes to what they do at the combine and whether or not the combine is completely outdated. It's a growing business, and certainly one that a lot of players are getting into once they're done with their playing careers. That's 1 hour in the books. It's the Zach Gelb Show. I'm Amy Lawrence here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
I'm Amy Lawrence in for Zach Gelb on this Friday afternoon. That just sounds good. I did tell my manager that I'm happy to fill in, of course, whatever you need. But could we maybe try it on a day where it doesn't delay my weekend by 12 hours? So normally my weekend starts on Friday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. I'm usually the first show to usher in the weekend, so it's a sacrifice. But it's all right. You guys are worth it. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. If you want to answer our question, the phone number is always toll-free, 855-212-4CBS. That's 855-212-4227. And we're asking, in light of Tom Terrific, something else that he's got to show off and do. He's apparently done preparing for his spot in the broadcast booth next fall, and now he's working out, going back to the track, running 40s again. There's actually a video that he's done with some friends where he proves to people that he is faster now than 24 years ago when he ran the 40 at the combine. It's only a couple hundredths of a second, whatever, depending upon which stopwatch you believe. But the idea is, what do we do better now, a physical skill that in college, not so much. Now, I think it's maybe unfair, though I probably would have brought this up immediately, maybe unfair to take something from our professional lives. So, for instance, I am so thankful there are no tapes of my first ever radio shows when I was in college. thank the Lord, there was no social media. There was no digital recording. They're not archived anywhere. So grateful for that. So yes, after 25 years, I am a much better broadcaster now than I was then. But we're thinking more of a physical skill. But I came up with another one, and this is only because I refused to even try. I was a little afraid of it when I was in college. The only thing I cooked in college was pasta. So I could boil water. I wouldn't even make eggs. I wouldn't even do eggs, pancakes, nothing like that. But I could kill the pasta, crush the pasta. Well, I'm a much better cook now than I was in college. So that's good news. But I didn't start till I was 30. I don't know why. It was intimidating to me. And also, you never have to worry. Well, not never. A lot of people, if you're athletes, you don't necessarily have to worry about what you eat until the point at which your metabolism slows down. And then, ruh-roh, everything changes. So what skill are you actually better at now than you were in college? Again, on Twitter, you can use our CBS Sports Radio Twitter. Also, send your question for Ask the Pros. And then on the phones, Mauricio is listening in Tucson, Arizona. What do you do better now than when you were in college or when you were younger?
First, I'd like to thank the Lord Jesus Christ who can save from hell. The thing that I do when I was 45, which is I'm 53 now, is throw the ball, the football, and then catch it. And then I know it sounds weird, odd, but that's what I love to do. I wouldn't really have a lot of friends, so I would do this. And when my friends would be around, they say, "Oh, you schooled us. You would really do really good." And so, I hurt my shoulder 2 years ago, and now it's better. I got strength in it because I think the Lord, He healed me. In fact, last night, they prayed for me, and my shoulder's about 100%. And so
That's awesome.
It's important to love what you do, even though we don't do it like we used to do it. What's important, you love to do it, and as long as you can still do it on this life on earth, it's a blessing. It's every day it's a blessing.
So for you, it's throwing a football, Mauricio? That's what you love to do?
Yes, as a Christian, you are more happier, and you look less older when you get older. So that's a blessing.
I wonder if that's true.
I can wake up 2 in the mornings and not sleep a lot. I come home and sleep late, and then wake up early with prayer and have.
I wish I had those skills, Mauricio. Thank you so much for your phone call. I wish I had those skills because that is not the case for me. I do not get less sleep and wake up feeling more well-rested. That's not a skill. Now, if we're talking superpowers, if I could fly, that would be amazing. That's not something I did in college or something I do now. I was thinking of a couple of others, though, in terms of physical skills and what you might do better now. But Mauricio reminded me that, let's see, start of CBS Sports Radio, so I guess it's 13, 14, and it's actually on my YouTube channel. I learned how to throw a spiral. Never knew how to throw a spiral. And we did a spiral challenge with a couple of my early producers, and they taught me how to throw a spiral. So there's another one. Samter, I feel like there's got to be something physically that you can do better now than when you were in college.
I mean, I guess I'll say ride a bike.
Oh, ride a bike. Okay.
Because I ride my bike to and from work every day in the city. So I'm assuming I'm just better now, but a week of training in college, and I would already beat myself now. But
helmet
at least for
or
right
no
now,
helmet?
Oh, helmet, absolutely.
You're a helmet guy?
I actually didn't wear a helmet until my wife told me, "You wear a seatbelt in the car, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, "This is even more important." I'm like, I guess it makes sense. If I'm wearing a seatbelt, why not wear a helmet? So now I wear a helmet every day. And now that I have a daughter, it's not even a question. Anything I can do to protect myself, to protect her, then I'm good.
All right, riding a bike. It's just like riding a bike. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. What we're talking about college. This blows me away, and yet it really doesn't. It's the two sides of the coin. I'm flabbergasted in one respect that college football hasn't even moved to a 12-team playoff yet and is now already considering 14. And at the same time, if you understand where the commissioners are coming from, where the college football commissioners from the Power Five are coming from, well, then you understand that it's all about the bottom line. And they try to keep it as equitable as possible, which kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think? So here's the idea behind expanding it even more, is that a 14-team playoff, it sounds so awkward to say, let's just try it differently. 14 teams in the playoff. That sounds so much better. 14 teams in the playoffs starting in 2026 would then guarantee, more than likely, these different conferences that all get automatic bids. And that's kind of the issue right now. Kind of the crux of the whole thing is that conferences want guarantees that their champions, maybe their second place team, heck, maybe their third place team, are going to be guaranteed spots in this playoff. And if you think I'm joking, do not underestimate the power of these commissioners from the Power Five. The revenue sports are college football and college basketball. And what they're trying to do is guarantee that they have, at the very least, their conference champion. But it doesn't stop there. It's not going to end there. Couple of things at work when it comes to the bottom line. TV and TV rights deals, that's where these conferences get rich. That's where these schools make the majority of their money. You get into one of these games, and then you get to split the pot. Well, you get a greater share of the pot. And we already know that starting in 2026, ESPN will spend an average of $1.3 billion on the playoff for the life of the deal, which is 6 seasons. So if you're thinking about it and you know that money is coming, you're a conference commissioner, you're one of the schools that maybe isn't always competing for a championship, or maybe you've won a conference championship, but somehow you get bumped by the SEC and teams that didn't win conference championships. You don't want that to happen now, not with an expanded bracket. And so even as they consider what the format should look like for 12 and then 14, automatic qualification is going to continue to be a sticking point. But to me, it's really going to be the beginning of a system that's not as authentic. If you start guaranteeing bids, then the whole idea of having the best 12 teams and the best 14 teams kind of takes a bath. It kind of gets watered down. I get it that these Power 5, actually it's about to be the Power 4, right? We'll just call them power conferences if you take the Pac-12 off the table. I get it that they're usually a group or a conglomerate of the best teams in college football. But if you truly want it to be the top 12 or the top 14, then they shouldn't be mandated to come from certain conferences. Again, that feels like you're saying the best teams in these conferences, not the best 12 teams or the best 14 teams overall. But that's one major issue. There are others. Another issue moving forward is how they divvy up the money. Again, dead giveaway. You can see right through this because what they want is guarantees and they want to know how the money's going to be divided up. And so the 12-team format, not even tried it out yet. Haven't even taken the bike for a test ride. And already they're looking with the dollar signs in their eyes at the 14 teams. I get it. College football has changed so drastically, really college sports, but the number one way that it affects the college landscape is football and then men's basketball. And to a lesser extent, or I shouldn't say to a lesser extent, fewer players in some of the other sports like women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark being a great example. So it's affecting all of the other schools and all of the other sports through the lens of college football, college basketball. That's what's governing realignment. That's what's determining the revenue and the money that's spent by the athletic department. And these conferences, what they really want to do, as I say, guarantee themselves, their schools, and their conference as great a piece of the pie as they possibly can. Now, they're still in the process of trying to figure this part out. But to already be debating that they need to add more automatic qualifiers, whether it's conference champs, whether there's some other stipulation that kicks in that guarantees you a spot. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you pay for it. I know I'm being snarky. But the fact that they're already arguing over that and we haven't even gotten through 1 year of the 12-team playoff, it makes it seem so disingenuous, right? So the 12-team will have 5 automatic qualifiers. And the more you guarantee, the less room there is for actual teams that have played their way in. And maybe that's not the point. Maybe I'm missing it somehow. And the point isn't actually to open it up for more competition, to have the best teams in the country, whether it's a mid-major who's gone undefeated, whether it's a team that didn't win its conference championship for whatever reason, but still has the chops and still has what the committee believes is the ability to compete at the highest level. Isn't the whole idea to open up college football so that you have more teams that are competing, so that you give more teams an opportunity to prove what they can do on that stage? And yet, the biggest question mark is how many automatic bids can we guarantee? So say, for example, every now and then, I guess, you'll get a down year for the SEC. Or you get a down year for the ACC. Actually, this was a down year for the ACC, right? You get a down year for one of the power conferences, and yet their champion is still guaranteed a bid. Not only does it seem disingenuous, but it's not a true picture. It's not a true 12-team playoff a la what we get in, say, college basketball. Now, in that case, you've got the automatic bids, but they come through the conference tournaments, right? So that kind of does the dirty work for March Madness in college basketball. But in college football, it's so different because there are fewer games, and you're not matching up against everybody in your conference. It feels like the 14-team model that would give 3 automatic bids to the Big Ten and the SEC, another 2 to the Big 12 and the ACC, and then another one to the Group of 5. Research if you don't know what it is. Right? Automatically, you're getting all of those schools in, whether or not they actually are among the best 12 or 14. I guess in this case it would be the 14-team model. Sure, it stimulates debate, and it gives people who really love college football more of these games that have the pomp and the circumstance and the excitement and the buzz and the hype and all that jazz. And it's a playoff. But again, if you're contractually obligated to put a certain number of teams in from each conference, it defeats the whole purpose of a playoff. Because it really isn't open to everyone. It really isn't open to the best 12 or 14 teams. Nah. It's just about creating a greater showcase and putting more of the power teams in. And that whole debate about whether or not, I know it's a Nick Saban thing, but whether or not Alabama deserves to be in without winning the SEC, well, that goes out the window because now there's all these guaranteed spots for the Big Ten and the SEC. It just smacks of money grab, number one. And I don't know that matters to anyone. But number two, the rich get richer, the big get bigger. I think it also lends itself to even more realignment down the road. It's tilting the scales even more so in favor of the power conferences, not less so. And I think the idea is to open it up, but that's not what's happening. So you think college football and the transfer portal and the realignment is crazy now. Well, this is only going to increase it. and give more to the rich. Where's Robin Hood? We need Robin Hood to rob the rich and give some to the poor. We need the Robin Hood of college football. On Twitter, A-Law Radio, that's me. I'm Amy Lawrence. Or our show Twitter. Wrong one. Our show Twitter, reset, is CBS Sports Radio. Our network Twitter, I should say, is CBS Sports Radio. Our phone number is 855-212-4227. I get a little nervous when people talk about the C word, but there's one player in Major League Baseball who wants the C word to be capitalized. And honestly, I buy it. You'll hear from him next. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday to you. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
Zach's taking a much-deserved Friday off. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Zach, and you can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio, or our show Twitter, which is Network Twitter, which is CBS Sports Radio. If you want to weigh in with either a question for Ask the Pros, or if you have some skill that you have perfected since college, you couldn't do it. Now, though, you can crush it. I was saying this earlier, but when I was in college, well, even going back to the days in high school, had a friend try to teach me how to play golf. I couldn't do it because I played a lot of softball. Going back to when I was in third grade, I had played softball every year, and I did not have the ability to swing a golf club in such a different mechanism than I would swing a softball bat. It was too close, and I was doing too much of the softball thing. So it wasn't until I got out of college and was done playing softball on a regular basis, other than, say, different beer league teams or adult leagues, then I could actually figure out how to hit the golf ball or hit the ball off the tee. The driver specifically was the tough one. So that one actually is a skill that I never had when I was younger. And I guess some days I have it now, some days I don't. But at least the days that I do are a little more frequent. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. And coming up, Bob Ryan, longtime columnist for Boston Globe, will join us. A pretty incredible feat for a man that I've known since I lived in New England, grew up in New England, and got my start covering sports there. Wait until you hear about it. It's required a lot of years, a lot of travel, a lot of dedication. The C word is being tossed around by one now Dodger, former Major League Baseball free agent. And in baseball, there are a lot of free agents that are left. Scott Boras gets blamed for so much of this, and I do believe that there is a definite theme there. Boras demands top dollar for his clients. Many times, at least the reputation is that he won't let them settle for less. He won't let them take less than what he thinks they should have or what he's asked for, because you got to worry about setting the market and leaving the game better than what it was. You have a responsibility to everybody who comes behind you, but mostly it's about his reputation. So he promises, and he has to deliver, even if his client would prefer to stay in a particular place or go to a particular franchise or team and take less money, because that's what's best for him. I couldn't work with that kind of an agent, but that is his rep. And, of course, he prices his free agents out of what would be a market for 30 teams. There's only so many who can afford his highest profile free agents, like, say, a Blake Snell. So we know that there's a problem. We'll call it a problem, an issue, a roadblock in Major League Baseball when it comes to free agents. But it's not just Boras clients that are still unsigned. And it's becoming a problem, right? Because we're multiple weeks into free agency, multiple weeks into spring training. The hot stove barely even exists anymore. When was the last time the hot stove was interesting? It's supposed to be this catchy, quirky Major League Baseball phenomenon in the wintertime, and yet it's a whisper. I know that baseball has talked about putting a deadline on free agency. But so far, the Players Association isn't buying it. But it would save what's happening now, right? Which is there's a bunch of really talented players, impact guys who don't have teams, who aren't in spring training, and who likely won't be ready to go. But is there something else at work here besides teams who don't want to deal with Scott Boras? I spoke actually to a longtime president, baseball president, and he said there are teams that won't negotiate with the guy because they know they're going to get taken for a bath. They know they're going to lose their shirts and they're going to get a raw deal. So that in and of itself hurts the market, though if the players get what they want or what Scott Boras wants, maybe it doesn't matter to them. But is there an issue with some of these other free agents where teams, owners, front offices, so when I say teams, I mean the front offices, but also the owners that write the checks, are they conspiring? It's not that C word, but are they conspiring to limit what free agents are paid? Are they doing it so that, well, they have more money underneath the luxury tax threshold, but also they can pad their bottom line? Gosh, I feel like I was just talking about the bottom line with college football, now with Major League Baseball too. Kike Hernandez thinks so. He's back with the Dodgers. Just recently signed. He does an interview on Foul Territory, which is a show on YouTube, and he calls it the C word. He's referring to collusion.
I'm not going to say the C word, but I think the C word needs to be with a capital C, you know? The timing of the calls were very similar. The numbers were pretty much the same throughout. I don't know, the teams that use these computer programs to project salaries and project numbers, they're all using the same one, and I think they all have the same password. So that's kind of how free agency's been going. And it's not just me, man. Like, a lot of guys that were out there in free agency and are still out there are saying the same things.
Again, from Foul Territory on YouTube, his C word is collusion. In case you don't know, collusion is against the rules in baseball, in football. People have tried to convince me of collusion in the NFL in the past. For instance, the Colin Kaepernick situation. The teams were colluding to keep him out of the league. I actually don't buy it. And here's why I don't buy it in the NFL. You couldn't convince me unless there were emails that were, well, even then, I might be suspicious. You can fabricate those these days. But the reason I don't buy it is because in the NFL, half the playoff field turns over every year. These guys will do anything to win. Owners desperately want their teams to be in the playoffs, number one, and then to be able to compete for a Super Bowl. And there is evidence that you can turn your team around quickly. You can go from worst to first. We have that every year as well. These guys are not going to collude with one another. They're uber competitive. They'll do whatever it takes to win. We see that all the time in the NFL. And I just don't think you can tell these powerful men, hey, you have to do it this way or that way. No, in the NFL, a Super Bowl win is worth its weight in gold. That's the goal. They all know it. And some of them would give up, well, if you're a Friends fan, phalanges to be able to win a Super Bowl. They're cutthroat. They're not colluding together. They're not helping each other win. It's hard enough to survive in the NFL, right? They're not helping each other win. But in Major League Baseball, I can see it for a couple of reasons. It actually doesn't feel like, and this is just based on, 20 years of covering the league, but also the fact that it's pretty obvious which teams are aggressive in going after players and talent, which teams are committed to winning. And aren't those two the same thing? They have to be, right? Because in baseball, there's no salary cap, which means if you have a high-profile free agent like a Shohei Ohtani, there are only a couple of teams that can even begin to bid for him. So right away, you can see that there's half the league, in some cases even more than half the league, that just aren't in the same stratosphere. Now, does Shohei Ohtani or Yamamoto guarantee you a World Series? No. But to be able to put those guys on your roster certainly gives you a leg up, and at the very least gets you into the playoffs. But I can believe collusion in Major League Baseball because there are a lot of teams that don't actually give it the old college try. They don't appear to be competing at all. They may bring guys up through their farm systems, but they're not paying them to stick around. A lot of times, the biggest decision that they face is trading them before they walk away and they get nothing in return. And you ask fan bases. Now, fan bases are not necessarily logical, but the patterns are there with some franchises who they're content. The owners are content to make money off the tickets, off the TV revenue, although there's more of that when you get in the playoffs. And they're not real serious about spending the money to make the money. Now, what Kike is pointing to is the fact that they all use the same computer models, which kind of spits out based on your stats and your history, your age, other data. It's analytics, what you are worth. But if all the teams are looking at those same computer models, well, then it stands to reason there's a certain ceiling for a player. It's no longer about what a team desperately wants, desperately needs, and would pay through the nose to get a guy. No, it's about, well, we're pretty sure we're not going to get outbid here. Let's stay under the luxury tax threshold. He's not going to know better. And yeah, collusion is really difficult to prove, right? What are you going to do? Seize people's phones? So I can see it. I can see it in Major League Baseball where they're going through a bit of an identity crisis. It's become much more of a regional sport than a national sport. They have a hard time promoting their sport. The commissioners prepare to die on the hill for pace of play. You're always in kind of this uncertain space when it comes to labor peace. I could see the owners, especially those that are not real committed to winning a World Series, that are more about winning revenue, determining together, we're only going to spend so much for this group of free agents. It's a little different than it is in the NFL. The landscape is different. All right, on Twitter, at CBS Sports Radio, A-Law Radio, what's one skill that you didn't have in college, but you've got it now? And straight ahead, Bob Ryan, he is a legend in the writing business and the media business, and he has just accomplished something that's pretty incredible. Can't wait for you to hear about it. Only Bob. It's the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio, and I'm Amy Lawrence. Here's our latest sports update, and here's Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Kevin Byard's time in Philly has come to an end with the Eagles releasing the veteran safety after acquiring him at the trade deadline for Terrell Edmonds in a 5th and 6th round pick. The Commanders have released tackle Charles Leno and Nick Gates, as well as tight end Logan Thomas, who's coming off a very strong year. Alabama defensive back Kool-Aid McKinstry has a Jones fracture in his right foot. The injury found during medical evaluations at the scouting combine. He'll require surgery, but should be ready for the start of training camp. The Celtics have owned the top spot in the East all season long and go for their 10th straight tonight against the Mavericks. Their star, Jason Tatum, said they've had the right approach throughout.
We've just done a really good job of staying present. You know, we always talk about it just getting a little bit better every single day. We're not looking past anybody. We respect every opponent, regardless of, you know, national TV game or league pass or, you know, their best players out. We approach every game the same way.
The Mavericks are a half game behind New Orleans for the 6th spot in the West. The Pelicans will host the Pacers tonight. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, this is Bart Winkler. I've got a new show weeknights. Join me for the Bart Winkler Show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, only on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
And I'm Amy Lawrence, in for Zach Gelb here on CBS Sports Radio. And this is a real treat for me as a New Hampshire girl, a New England native, to be able to welcome longtime sports writer, longtime Boston Globe columnist Bob Ryan to the show. Bob, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Friday to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I am kind of blown away that I'm even reading this, but I want our audience to know before we get your reaction. On the night of February 1st, you attended a game at South Dakota State University, Frost Arena, and it was the renewal of this great basketball rivalry with North Dakota State. So the two schools playing each other. And with you in attendance, that meant that you had now seen a sporting event in all 50 states, in addition to Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and, of course, different international events. Wow, a lifelong accomplishment. That's pretty incredible. But what did that mean to you, Bob?
It meant it meant wow. It meant isn't this cool? It was a and I just want to correct one misimpression that some people have gotten, and that is that it was a quote lifelong quest. It was not a lifelong quest. It just happened. No, really. And I want to start to say at the top. I'm so grateful that I worked for a newspaper that I had a job that set me on the road. And so the accomplishment of being at a sporting event in all 50 states is a combination of job assignments and then personal travel. But some of that personal travel emanated from already being on the road, at the auspices of the Globe. Okay. It never occurred to me about going to 50 until I hit 48. And no, seriously, I just went along my life and I was doing. Now, the one quest I did have, and I still have, is college basketball arenas. When I was at Brookings and in Brookings a month ago, that was my 205th venue for college basketball, which includes professional arenas where NCAA tournament games are played, as well as college arenas or gyms. Okay. That's my quest. That was my quest. And the other thing just happened. When I hit 48, which was Alaska, and that was my 50th state, and also the 50th state in which I've slept. That's a big part of that. When people want to say that, tell me, did you sleep there? Don't tell me you drove through. You have to spend the night. Right. Anyway, that was my 50th state. And it also gave me my 49th sport because I went to a basketball game, Alaska Fairbanks. It was the occasion of my 70th birthday. That's why I wanted to go to Alaska. I wanted to wake up somewhere where I'd never been. And then concurrently, and my good fortune, Alaska Fairbanks was home and I could kill those proverbial two birds with the one stone. Okay, so now I got 49 was Ole Miss football. Okay. Went to see the Grove and the whole thing. And now I'm at 49. And I said, wouldn't it be cool to do 50? Now I'd like to do 50, but I never thought about it until I hit 48. So last fall, I went to Matt Pepin, the sports editor of the Boston Globe, and said, Matt, I've been to 49 states for sporting event. If I can go to 50, would you be interested in the story? And he was very enthusiastic about it. And believe me, the Globe has been tremendously supportive of this for me. And they've put on a wonderful presentation, Globe Online. And by the way, for those of you, we hope that people will also buy the Sunday paper and actually read it in print. Keep that tradition alive, please. Anyway, South Dakota was the missing state. Now, you got three basic options in South Dakota, it seems to me. You have South Dakota University of South Dakota football, basketball, South Dakota State football, basketball, and the Sioux Falls Canaries of the American Association Independent Baseball League. And I said, I want to see those jackrabbits take the floor. They've had a nice basketball program for a while. And so, and just so happened they're playing North Dakota State, a big rival. They've been playing for over 100 years, literally. And so I chose South Dakota State, and that's how it happened.
What was your first event as the first state?
My first event was in New Jersey, and I don't remember it because I could have been anywhere from 6 months to 4 years old. I was born in Trenton, New Jersey, and my father was a very well-known local sports person in various ways, promotion, marketing, organization. But at this point, he was working for the Trenton Giants, the Class B Interstate League affiliate of the New York Giants. And I was an only child. My mother was a good sports fan as well. And they were taking me, as the little kid to all these games. So I don't remember anything specific, but trust me, I went to a lot of minor league baseball games in Dunfield, including family folklore always said the organized baseball debut of a young center fielder named Willie Mays. So I've always lived off that one, that I saw Willie Mays, although I don't quite remember him. That was number one. And then after that, my father took a job at Villanova, where he was assistant athletic director. And that got me immersed in college sports, football and basketball.
It's funny when people ask me, Bob, how many states have you been in or how many states have you driven through? Because I do a lot of road trips. I swear there are some that I missed that I don't remember. How do you know? Have you gone back? Do you have receipts? How are you sure that you've been to every state to cover or attend an event?
Number one, I have very few life skills. one of them is a good memory, and I have an aptitude for words. Thank God, because I have no mechanical aptitude. There were many things I could not do, but the one thing I'm good. This is how I'm wired. Okay, first of all, I have all these events that I have covered, professionally. Not to mention the ones that I went to when I was a college student following Boston College basketball around, which I did. And I mean, and personal travel. I just know, and I can prove all of this. When for instance, baseball, I got these scorebooks from all over. I've been to over 50 minor league ballparks.
Wow.
And by the way, just want to say that when I was compiling the list of the 50 states and which sports I had seen in which state, and it didn't surprise me at all that the two leading sports, the states with the most sport, college basketball with 39 and minor league baseball with 33, because those are my two avocations. I would always go out of my way over these years to go to a new minor league park or a new college arena.
Bob Bryant, who's a legendary writer for the Boston Globe, has had this new feat they can add to his list of accomplishments. He's attended or covered a sporting event in each of the 50 states in D.C. He's got a brand new column about it online, the Boston Globe, right now. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio, and I'm Amy Lawrence. As a good New England girl growing up, I've been reading Bob for a long time. I'd love to ask your reaction to what's happening in the newspaper industry, though, and not just newspapers, but print, magazines. It's been a tough few years for your industry.
It's sad, and it's frightening, and it's depressing for those of us who made our living in it and love the industry. And it's not going back in any appreciable way. You're trying to hold on. My own newspaper has done a very good job of keeping up in the digital world, and we're being read by more people than we ever have been, thanks to the digital world. That's great. Although we want people to keep reading the print paper, believe me. It's a crisis. And the thing is that the internet KO'd these people, all of us, and then no one was prepared for it. I've always thought this, Amy, if in the very beginning of the internet awareness of what it could be and how they could put the stories of their own from our papers. If the top 15 or 20 newspapers in America circulation had gotten together, had they gotten together and said, okay, we have this new phenomenon. If we would just charge, say nominal, $5, start off with $5 a month to people, so that they would know it can't be for free. We're doing this. Maybe it would have helped. I don't know. And then you could incrementally raise, like everybody's doing. Watch out, you streaming people, the cable, they're going after you next. You know that. And, anyway, of course I'm grieved and I'm very, very grateful that I'm working for, still affiliated. I have officially retired as of 2012, but obviously I still have a few things left over here, that I'm still working for a paper that is really being run so well.
I'm sure you get this question a lot, but if a young journalist who loves print, who loves to write, comes to you and says, what do I do? What advice do you give about jumping into a business that's changed so much?
That's a scary question, because about 3 weeks ago, our paper ran a story about the plight of journalism majors and what is the future for them. And I hadn't really dealt with it directly in that manner. And I said, oh boy, that's true. What would I do? I don't know. That's a sad thing. I would have to be honest and say somebody's got to do it. There's avenues to write. There are avenues to write, but there are very limited opportunities to do it in the manner that we used to do it, or the way that I was privileged to do it myself. I can't tell you it's a very promising career. If you're okay online and you're okay, doing certain okay, but it's a frightening thing, and I've never been any good at giving job advice anyway, Amy. I'll tell you that. But now it's worse than ever.
So I remember when you would write about, I cut my teeth on late 80s, early 90s NBA. In fact, the reason I'm in this business is because of Johnny Most and the Boston Celtics. So that's how I became a radio junkie. So I've been reading your stuff going way back. You've covered New England sports for a long time, of course, not just the 50 states, but that's your bread and butter. What's your reaction to no more Bill Belichick in a brand new era with the Patriots?
All the things do come to an end, be they good things or bad things. In this case, it was generally a phenomenally good thing. Here's my big summation. The number one amazing story of my 55-year now career, since I was a summer intern, I'm going to be 56 this year, I hate to tell you, is the rise of the Patriots from number 4 in the local pecking order among the 4 primary sports and into the number one story. It used to be that that in Boston, I would say you could write baseball 365 days a year and justify it. Well, those days are gone. Now you can write football 365 days a year and justify it. And it's all due to the Patriots. It's due to Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Adam Vinatieri, who, by the way, should have been given a $10 million exit check when he left New England for what he did for them. And Bob Kraft was a good owner. And I think, and it has been. So, it's my reaction is we're in a brave new world. It's not going to be the same. Of course, we got so used to Bill's ways, but I know the media is breathing a very big sigh of relief dealing with a different type of personality than the one they've dealt with. Although, let me tell you something, he's multi-layered. I've seen him in other contexts. He is a big actor. He has put on acting a role that he chose that would enable him to do his job without distraction. And there's more sides to him than the one people see after a football game on Sunday.
Bob, I just have 15 seconds. So what's next now that you've done the 50 plus DC?
Well, I'm working on a sequel to the book I've done with my pal Bill Chuck called In Scoring Position. It's about my scorecards plumbing from 1977 to 2023. Wow. And it's out there, folks. And we're writing a sequel, thank God. And that'll keep me busy.
It will. You can find Bob on Twitter at Globe Bob Ryan, legendary sports columnist for the Boston Globe, a voice that I've heard for years. It's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all your success, Bob.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Incredible. And I'm not kidding. I used to read Bob when I was a kid. That's how I fell in love with sports, was going back to those late 80s, early 90s NBA teams, the Celtics, and listening to the games on the radio and then reading what people would write about them. Definitely is a changing industry, that's for sure. And I know that it's one where a lot of people are unable to navigate. You have to have multiple skills. You have to be versatile. And so kids coming out of school now, as I teach a class at Syracuse, that's something that I try to tell them. Stick your finger in a bunch of different pies. Figure out what you're good at, how you can expand your skill set so you can be attractive to employers. But it definitely has changed a ton with the move to digital, of course. Hard to believe that's 2 hours down. Pretty incredible. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. Also, our CBS Sports Radio Twitter. Well, it's CBS Sports Radio. I'm Amy Lawrence, in for Zach Gelb. This is his show, The Zach Gelb Show, on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
For Zach on what is a Friday afternoon. Whether you're in the Pacific time zone and it's 2 p.m. and you are itching to get to your weekend, or whether this actually signals the start of your weekend, that's if you're still working. Don't tell me that on a Friday afternoon, some of you working from home haven't sort of checked out or just completely checked out at this point. I see you. I know what you're doing. But thanks for keeping us company and allowing us to hang out on this Friday. Add to your entertainment value, your entertainment quotient. We're just going to assume that's the case. I've got my family texting me about some group chat that's going on, the CBS Sports Radio YouTube channel, where the show is airing now. My mother is giving me advice about my hair, and I should have known better than to tell the family that the show was also on YouTube. Yay. Yay me. Filling in for Zach. This is so much fun. Thank you, fam. Thank you for watching. On my Twitter, you can find me A-Law Radio, or if you want to send the question for Ask the Pros, which we'll do later this hour, you can do that at CBS Sports Radio. We've covered a lot of territory in the first 2 hours, and I love it. We've gone college football, money grab, potential collusion in Major League Baseball, which I can buy. Tom Brady runs faster now than he did at the Combine 24 years ago. I know video can be doctored, but I do believe he's in better shape for sure. Remember pudgy Tom Brady at the Combine 24 years ago? And he's got guys who are clocking him now at the 40, and he's shaved, nanoseconds off of his time. So we're asking you, is there a skill that you can do better now than when you were in college? Presumably there are, considering that a lot of people, if you don't play a sport in college, maybe you enjoy the freshman 15, the freshman 25. You just really enjoy the college life. And then reality hits you when you get out of college and you realize, oh, right, that's not going to fly for the rest of my life. And so, yeah, I can see that there are people who are in better shape now than they were when they were in college. So all those kind of fun skills. For me, I can think of a few, but cooking is one that I steadfastly refused to even try when I was in college. I don't know why it intimidated me so much, but it did. Good thing for my new husband that I've learned how to cook and that I'm much better at it now. Otherwise, we would be stuck eating nothing but pasta. Maybe a little ramen noodles mixed in there, but pasta would be the primary meal each week. Our phone number is 855-212-4227, toll free 855-212-4CBS. We just may have some breaking news for you, or breaking speculation, if you will. I tell people, be careful what you hear, read, believe, absorb this time of the year, because there are, in fact, sharks in the water. There are, in fact, plants, leaks that are intentional to throw other teams and competition off the scent. Be aware of that. Not everything is what it seems. So take it all with a grain of salt. But we hear this from the Combine in Indianapolis. We'll let Connor Hughes of SNY tell you there could be another team on the hunt for a QB in this upcoming draft.
The worst kept secret of the NFL Combine might not just be the Giants' desire to select a quarterback in the upcoming NFL draft, but their willingness to trade up to go get a quarterback in this year's draft. The problem, though, is there going to be one for them to go up there and take? If it goes quarterback in the NFL draft, will the Giants trade up or select Bo Nix? Would they take Michael Penix, considering his injury history? I don't necessarily know. So while the Giants want a quarterback, they seem like they want to find the replacement for Daniel Jones. That player might not be there this year.
Connor Hughes of SNY. That just throws another wrench into what is a very intriguing quarterback carousel. And sure, it does involve three very talented actually more than three talented QBs at the NFL draft, some of which we will see in action, most of which we will not. But Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, a lot of people think they'll go 1-2 if the Bears and Commanders remain at 1 and 2. Michael Penix has done medicals with all 32 teams. He says he's been cleared. Dr. Neil Armitage, if you know that name, one of the foremost surgeons when it comes to ACLs and knees. And he's said that Michael's in good shape for what that's worth. I know the teams have all gone and run him through the medicals, which is important. But here's the thing. He doesn't really run a lot. Not that you want a guy with a gimpy knee, but Michael Penix is a pocket guy. He likes being a pocket guy, and he can sling it from that pocket. He's got pinpoint accuracy. There's so much to like about him that I'm not sure teams want to obsess over whether or not he might have another knee injury in the future. He's certainly overcome a lot, which I think makes him an even more talented prospect, because you know that this guy is not going to throw in the towel, right? He's not going to quit because it's hard. And he was actually asked about his work ethic at the Combine.
Since I was a kid, giving up, that was never in my blood. My family, my parents, they never let me give up, quit anything in my life, So it's always, if you start something, you're going to finish it. So I knew that I was never going to give up, but, I just continue to trust in my faith, trusting the people around me and continue to take it day by day and, just enjoying each and every moment.
I don't know, and this is not about skill set, I don't know that I wouldn't compare Michael Penix and the way that he can impress people in person, whether it's with what we've seen in the college football playoff, at the Combine, or his pro day, but also what he has to say for himself. Reminds me a little bit of the buzz around Anthony Richardson. Once he was actually out in the cycle and was at the Combine, but then was going through the pro day and going through the process of interviewing with teams. Michael Penix seems to be one of those guys who's even more impressive in person, right? So you can watch the tape, you can see what he does on the field, and man, a lot of us were dazzled by the college football semifinal. But when you talk to him, when you hear him talk, everything he's been through, he's not a guy that hasn't faced a ton of adversity, and I like that about him. So I'm excited to see where he ends up. So yeah, you've got Caleb and JJ Michael all speaking on Friday at the draft. So there's one kind of circle, or we'll call it a circus, one ring of the circus that is focused on these top prospects. And both Caleb and JJ have been asked about the Bears and the Commanders, because theoretically those two teams are taking quarterbacks at the top, though not to the point where the Bears have already traded away Justin Fields. I got duped by that on social media on Thursday evening, and I now have rushed away with my tail between my legs, just knowing that I got to be really careful. Even here I am telling you to be careful. I got to be careful what accounts I read and believe, and checking their handles. Dang, blue check marks. The Bears are unlikely to trade out of that number one pick. They can disguise, they can use smoke and mirrors. But at this point, Caleb or Justin. And as I spoke to a longtime NFL GM, former NFL Executive of the Year, Randy Mueller, a couple weeks ago, he said to me, if all things are equal and the talent, the potential of these two quarterbacks is equal, and the only thing you're basing the decision on is money, why not reset? Because Justin Fields is closer to a free agent deal. He's going to cost you more money. If you can reset your quarterback market and you can spend more money on other positions by drafting and using a rookie, why not do it? And that comes from the mind of a GM. So we know Bears at 1 and Commanders at 2 are looking for quarterbacks. Patriots are interesting at number 3, right? Because Mac Jones, fifth-year option, still hanging out there for 2025. We know that he has been through the ringer, and now there's a coaching change. They're poised in a spot where they could take a quarterback from what is called a talented class. And it's just so odd to not think of Bill Belichick pulling the strings or making the decisions anymore. You get to number 4, and there's an opportunity for a team that wants to potentially trade up, like the Giants. Because the Cardinals, they're not picking a quarterback. Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray, they're barely done using name tags, right? So they haven't had an opportunity to work together for a full season or even start out together where every team is 0-0. So now that Kyler Murray is back from his knee injury, they're likely not to draft a quarterback, especially if a team wants to move up and give them a haul for it. Of course, if they want a particular wide receiver or a particular defensive lineman, whatever it happens to be, maybe they stand pat. The Chargers are at 5. There's another opportunity because they're not drafting a quarterback. And there sit the Giants at 6. We know that they're planning to add a QB. We don't necessarily know if it'll be free agency or the draft. Part of that is because Daniel Jones may or may not be ready to start the season. But if they actually move up because they're intent on getting one of these young quarterbacks, even a Drake May is another name. In fact, the Bears are thinking about, well, again, reports, speculation, rumors. There is some talk that the Bears may not completely be sold on Caleb Williams, that they're considering Drake as well. The plot thickens. Dun, 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 dun. It's the Zach Gelb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. I'm Amy in for, Amy Lawrence, sorry. For those of you who don't know me, Amy Lawrence, in for Zach. It's funny because even if that was it, if it was the top 6 teams, that'd be plenty, right? But we don't know how many other teams are going to use draft via free agency for quarterbacks. How about the Atlanta Falcons? Did you hear the new head coach, Raheem Morris? Now, this was in the context of complimenting his team, but it cracks me up. If you're listening closely, you can hear him diss him. Just essentially say that they were held back because of their quarterback play, right? So he goes on this big, long answer to a question about how the Falcons are ready to win now. And he's touting all the reasons why they're a team that is ready to win in 2024, how he believes in them if they can find the quarterback.
That's not an arrogance. That's not a confidence. That's not a cockiness. That is more of a credit to the people that were in the building with me still, and some of the people that are not there now, and what they've been able to do. You know, if we had better quarterback play last year in Atlanta, I might not be standing here, and they would have the ability to be talking about those things.
I wonder how many people texted Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder, or how many times they've heard it, or maybe they just know. Either way, the Falcons are sitting at number 8. And they were, I guess you could say they were in the mix because the NFC South is rather tepid, but they dropped 4 of their last 5 games. So it helped them in terms of their draft position. But at number 8, are they still going to get a franchise guy? One that they can start right away? Or are they looking at more of a project? Or are they potentially going to battle the Giants to try to move up? You remember this time last year, well, actually, it's probably, I don't remember the exact date, but the Panthers and the Colts both wanted to move up to number 1. And so it was a bit of a bidding war to see which team would be able to offer the most so that Chicago could get a better haul, right? So it's one of those kind of chess matches where you know there are other teams that are potentially going to move up. But if you bid too much, right, you actually only hurt yourself. It's hard to know what other teams are willing to give up because it's so cutthroat and it's so competitive in the NFL. So you've got Atlanta Falcons at 8. The Bears pick again at 9. Maybe something to play with there. The Jets at 10. Now, here's the thing about the Jets is, yes, they have Aaron Rodgers for this year. A lot of people think this will be his last season. Even if he would play in 2025 and get a new deal, they're going to need to bring someone along behind him. At number 10, not likely to get an instant quarterback. Again, you don't need one because unless his Achilles doesn't stay intact, unless he gets hurt again. But we know that they've told Zach Wilson he can go look for a trade. Fly, be free, go find a new home, Zach Wilson. I love when teams tell the agent and the player, you can do the work. Just let us know when you got something. So the Jets also are looking at least for a backup QB, but I think they're going to want to start with someone young who can learn behind Aaron. The Denver Broncos have not a clue what they're doing at quarterback. And if you needed any proof of that, Sean Payton's busy talking about memes, quarterbacks' faces on T-shirts. I honestly don't think they have any clue. I don't think they want Russell Wilson back. And they would rather spend another year in quarterback purgatory and just get out of whatever possible money they can save by letting go of him. But at number 12, you're not going to get one of the top prospects, right? So the plot thickens the farther down you go. Broncos need a quarterback. Raiders need a quarterback. Unless they're prepared to ride with Aiden O'Connell, it's certainly not Brian Hoyer. And we know Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not long for Vegas, but also is suspended for the first 2 games of next season. What about the Steelers? All right, so follow this kind of progression. If Justin Fields gets traded to Atlanta, which we don't know is the case, I thought I saw it. It was fake. But we did get the video of his manager yelling in the background, "Are you ready to go home?" Meaning Justin going home to Atlanta. A lot of people think it's nearly a done deal. They just haven't announced it yet. Maybe they haven't crossed T's, dotted I's. But if Justin goes to Atlanta, what's left for Pittsburgh? I certainly hope they bring back Mason Rudolph. I think he's earned that and he's comfortable there and the guys are comfortable with him. But what about Kenny Pickett? If you believe the general manager, Omar Khan, they're riding with Kenny.
I have full faith in Kenny. He's shown us some good things, and obviously there were some issues with the offense, and I'm excited about the impact that Arthur Smith's going to have on him. You know, Arthur's very optimistic about Kenny, and I know they've communicated, and like I said, we'll have some strong competition there, and we'll see where it goes.
All right. Talk about disingenuous. Although we have heard that there's an internal debate about Kenny Pickett with the Steelers, so maybe Omar is the one that likes him and wants to continue moving forward with him, and say Tomlin or other guys in the front office are not. But nothing about what he said inspires confidence in Steelers fans. Certainly not the Arthur Smith component. Oh, that the Arthur Smith that was supposed to bring the best out of the Falcons quarterbacks? That one? No. So if the Steelers go for a QB as well, not in the draft necessarily, but free agency, we're looking at Russell Wilson, maybe a Ryan Tannehill, some of these other guys we've talked about that really couldn't start in their own places. Baker Mayfield, likely to go back to Tampa, though he is a free agent. It's crazy. The world, what a difference a year makes that Baker Mayfield is one of the top free agent quarterbacks available. And actually, I love that he and the Bucs have got a good thing going now. Kirk Cousins, we know he wants to go back to Minneapolis and the Vikings. It's going to be amazing to see what happens. Because really at this point, it's all been build up and talk and kind of moving the pieces around. But we're just guessing, right? We have no idea. Falcons, Commanders, Bears, Patriots, Jets, Giants, Raiders, Broncos, Steelers. That's a lot of teams. That's a lot of teams. And it is slim pickings in the free agent market, especially if Kirk and Baker end up back with their teams. And yeah, there's a bunch of quarterbacks in the draft, but how many of them are ready to go right this second or will be ready to go at the start of next season? See what I mean about the NFL? We can't miss you if you never go away. You've got a ring in the circus for draft picks, a ring in the circus for free agents. There's not a real harsh spotlight there. A ring in the circus for potential trades. And we're all hanging on with bated breath. The NFL is so good. We're hooked. We're obsessed with our quarterbacks, and we're hooked. On Twitter, at CBS Sports Radio, you can send your question for Ask the Pros. And what is a skill that you do better now than you did when you were in college? It's kind of funny to think about, depending upon your age, right? You do not want to hear Samter's story anymore. Something about how he damaged some tendons picking up his baby. It's not a good look. Isn't that what you said? You damaged a thumb. You needed surgery because you picked up your baby the wrong way?
Not the wrong way. I just picked up my baby, right? There are times I'll wake up after like a very comfortable night's sleep and like my leg hurts for 3 days. So like this isn't I did anything weird or fell or held my baby weird. No, I just held my baby like a human would do. And I'm just so old that I just apparently can't even do that okay.
Stu, I guess we have this to look forward to. I'm fighting it as long as I possibly can. This is why I run half marathons now. Oh my gosh. I hurt myself holding my baby. All right. I mean, I believe you. It's just, I don't know what that means. I'm a little afraid for you. You can't be that old. Although the last time I saw you didn't have the full beard, it definitely does make you look a little more elderly.
I mean, there used to be patches of gray. Now it is full gray, so it's getting there.
It's the Zach Gelb Show. Happy Friday. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Zach here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. Here's Amy Lawrence filling in for Zach. It's the first time I've done this particular show since Zach took over. I know he's having a good time and he's worked real hard for it. So congratulations to him. It's CBS Sports Radio. It's a Friday. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio, or you can use our network Twitter, CBS Sports Radio. We'll get to your Ask the Pros question coming up. Also, because I'm big into funky audio, I actually take the theory that radio is better the more voices that you have. And so Samter and I have been listening to and kind of scouring for some fun audio. First of all, Cam Newton finally speaks out about the fight at his youth football event. So we'll let you hear what he has to say. And there is one Texas Tech prospect that does not believe in, wait for it, space. Okay. I don't know how you sell that, but I would zip it immediately. Anyway, he'll tell you himself. So we'll get to that, just some fun audio before we hit the top of the hour. Our phone number is 855-212-4227. What is one skill that you have now that you did not have when you were in college? Carl's in Corpus Christi. What do you think, Carl?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hello?
Did I catch you off guard?
No, my wife was speaking to me. Sorry about that.
No,
hey,
don't
the
be
first
sorry.
thing I can do better now than I could in college is play golf. My fast twitch muscles and core were, of course, better in college, but knowing what the heck to do, mental game, knowing the swing, the tempo, the timing, way better now. Wish I was as strong now as then. The other one, similar, and I'll keep this clean, is be a lover. The enthusiasm was certainly there in college, but knowing what the heck to do is much more better now.
You know that's TMI, right? On national radio, that's way more than we needed to know.
I'm sorry. I was hoping I can keep that clean enough for the radio show.
I mean, it's
Sorry
not really
that,
about
Amy.
being clean. It's just about there's some things that you can just keep between you and your wife. It's okay.
Oh, well, I wasn't married in college.
Well, neither was I. In fact, I just got married 2.5 months ago, but I still wouldn't talk about that on my radio show.
Well, congratulations. And, oh, by the way, I like your voice better than Zach Gelb's, for what that's worth.
Well, because he's a dude and I'm a girl, so completely different. Thank you, Carl, I think. Thank you so much. Enjoy your wife this weekend. All right. Samantha, did you do that on purpose? Is that one of your friends? Did you set me up?
No, I was considering not putting him on the call screener.
Oh, he told you that's what he was planning.
Yeah, I even wrote it. Better golfer / lover than in college.
But I thought you meant golf lover. I didn't know you meant golf.
Ah, yes. And he said, "Listen, I'll do my best to keep it clean." And he was, very polite about it.
It's just why do we need to know that?
I definitely didn't need to know it. That's for sure.
All right. On that note, I'm not sure how to segue other than, hey, did you know some people call Caitlin Clark the Tiger Woods of college basketball? Their segue. Yeah, actually, I saw one columnist compare her in terms of her impact, not, of course, in terms of the money making, all of that may come, or the sport in the way that they measure championships, that type of thing. But yeah, that she's had the same impact on college basketball, not just women's, but college basketball as a whole, as Tiger Woods had on the game of golf in terms of raising its profile and the expectations and bringing more eyeballs to the sport. And that's a case that can be made. It really is. Now, Caitlin has decided she'll forego her final year of eligibility. For those of you who don't know, when COVID happened for a lot of college athletes, they were guaranteed another year of eligibility since they lost one in 1920. And that was her freshman year. So she could play another season if she wanted to, but with all these records she's breaking, so not just the women's college basketball scoring record in which she passed Kelsey Plum, that was a few weeks ago, but now the major college basketball scoring record, Lynette Woodard, that happened earlier this week. It's a record that the NCAA doesn't acknowledge. It's a player that started Kansas going back in the 70s, but it was before the NCAA took over. Anyway, it's been pretty amazing to see how she's handled the attention and the spotlight. And I know that there are theories and talking heads out there who would say that she's not as big as, say, a Maya Moore or a Diana Taurasi or name any, Breanna Stewart, name any of the stars in women's college basketball, or women's basketball now, and their profile being higher because they played at UConn or they played at Stanford, they played at Tennessee, or they played at South Carolina, and they've got championships or a championship to show for their efforts. But I don't know that carries weight with Caitlin. I think she transcends her sport. She's become a household name, and it's not just because of the records. It's because of the style of play. It's because there isn't anything on the basketball court she doesn't do well. And if you need hard evidence that she is boosting the game, and I don't just mean women's basketball, but to look at the track record of Iowa since she really ascended onto this national stage, they sell out pretty much every game. I think there was one game over Thanksgiving where they didn't sell every single ticket in the building. But you know, her senior game is coming up, her senior night is coming up, and the prices right now are ranging from $400 to $5,200 for a women's college basketball game. That is nearly unheard of. And this comes on the heels of her making the announcement that she will go ahead and declare for the draft, or she is declaring for the draft. Of course, she'll be the number one pick. So congratulations to the Indiana Fever. And that may be part of it. She's a native of Des Moines, Iowa. She's part of the heartland, right? This is where she's comfortable. She wanted to stay and play at home. And it's really paid off for her as well as for the Hawkeyes. She has done so much to not only raise the profile of her sport, but to attract fans of all shapes and sizes, ages, genders. I love what Sabrina Ionescu had to say after her shootout with Steph Curry. It's something that really resonated with me, and it applies to Caitlin too. If you can shoot, you can shoot. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what size. It doesn't matter what color. What matters is that you can play. You can ball out. Sabrina can do that. She's a superstar, even though she didn't win a title at Oregon. And Caitlin Clark is the same way. Now, here's something that I think is really cool about Caitlin. She plays at Iowa. Last year, got to the national championship game against LSU. There was no South Carolina. There was no UConn. There was no Stanford, who had won the year before. There was no Tennessee. No, it was LSU with Kim Mulkey, of course, who's resurrected that program. And it was Iowa. And you can go back to the days of Tennessee and UConn, and you can look at the way that they have forced the rest of women's college basketball to either compete or be left in the dust, right? That means resources. It means recruiting. It means the coaches. It means the money that you pour into your program. And Caitlin Clark is a product of that. She can go to Iowa and they can compete for a national championship, even though she's not playing at one of these premier schools that has dominated the women's game for so long. And I think that's part of her legacy as well. That's part of her impact. Also, players like Sabrina Ionescu, that you can be at a school that's not considered a women's basketball power, but if you are damn good the way these women are, the way Caitlin is, you can not only bring eyeballs and earballs, as I call them in radio, to your school and to your team, but you can expand women's college basketball, the audience for it, and the number of teams that can compete at the highest level. And I think that's her legacy. As much as the scoring records are incredible, and she's got one more to get, that's Pete Maravich. She only needs 18 more points to pass Pistol Pete. She'll likely do it in her next game, unless something goes horribly wrong. The fact that a preseason game for Iowa women's basketball can draw nearly 55,000 fans at the football arena, that's a credit to her and to what she and her team have done with so much attention on them. And I love that. Bringing new fans every single day as she becomes a household name and games are nationally televised and people are clamoring for her autograph and to get tickets to go to these games. That's the part that puts her close to the Mount Rushmore, right, of women's college basketball, is the fact that she's growing the sport in a way that we have not seen. On Twitter at CBS Sports Radio, I'm Amy Lawrence at A-Law Radio. We're going to try to make you smile as well, even if you're smiling at the idiocy, but we're going to make you smile as we get ready to dump you off to your weekend. So we'll do that next here on the Zach Gelb Show. Here's our latest sports update, and here's Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Eagles picked up Kevin Byard at the trade deadline to fortify their defense, and now are replacing him as the veteran safety was released. He was acquired from Tennessee for a 5th and 6th round pick, as well as Terrell Edmonds. The Commanders are releasing 2 offensive linemen, Charles Leno and Nick Gates, as well as tight end Logan Thomas. Doctors found a Jones fracture in Kool-Aid McKinstry's right foot. The Alabama defensive back is expected to be a first-round pick. He'll need surgery, but should be ready for training camp. The Celtics closed out February with 9 straight wins and look to open March on a high note when they look to extend their winning streak tonight against the Mavericks, who are just a half game behind the Pelicans for the 6th spot in the West. New Orleans is home to take on the Pacers, while the Timberwolves have been the top team out West. They'll go for their 4th straight tonight against the Kings. The Bucks have won their last 4 after a win in Charlotte last night. Right back at it tonight against the Bulls in Chicago. From college basketball, Old Dominion has found Jeff Jones' successor, naming Mike Jones to the post, former Maryland assistant. I'm Rich Ackerman.
What's going on, everybody? This is JR. Join me here on CBS Sports Radio for the JR Sport Brief. Weeknights, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Rock your body, yeah. Hey, this is Howie.
And this is Nick
From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
Stop it. That did not happen. Was that fake? Tell me whether or not that was real or fake. Coming from this, I used to be a closet Backstreet Boys fan, and now I'm just out there. I'm out of the closet as a Backstreet Boys fan. I adored them, and I don't care who knows. Are you serious? That was them? All right. Now Zach Gelb is the object of my envy. Oh, my gosh. That's amazing. Perfect. I'm Amy Lawrence in for the awesome Zach Gelb, clearly. Wait, is he a Backstreet Boys fan too? Or that wasn't really something that he wanted? He just kind of backed into it.
No, that's something he really wanted. He made that happen at Radio Row one year at the Super Bowl, and he is a big-time Backstreet Boys fan.
I'll just be honest. That's not one thing I ever expected to have in common with Zach Gelb. So this is his show. I'm Amy Lawrence. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I know it's weird. I feel like a possum. I normally am active at night, and this is very odd. I might get run over by a car because I'm so disoriented. Oh, no, that's not a good idea. I'm about to go out and play in New York City traffic, so no. From our CBS Sports Radio headquarters, we'll be running to catch a train because that's always fun on a Friday evening. But not before we pay off on our teases, little radio lingo. A couple of things we want to do before we hit the top of the hour. I always like to make people laugh, especially on a Friday. And if, you know what, if you're an athlete and we laugh at you, I mean, at least we're talking about you. There are a couple of things. This defensive back from Texas Tech, his name is Tyler Owens. He actually, with a microphone in front of his face, said, I don't believe in space. I'm real religious, so I think we're alone right now. I don't think there's other planets and other stuff like that. I thought I used to believe in the heliocentric thing, where we used to revolve around the sun and stuff. What school did he go to? Texas Tech. Oh my gosh, I'm sure his professors are so embarrassed right now. But then I started seeing flat earth stuff and I was like, this is kind of interesting. They started bringing up valid points. So, I mean, I don't know. Could be real. Couldn't be. Okay. Number one, I don't think if you're a flat earther that eclipses space. But sometimes I wonder, where do flat earthers and others like Tyler who don't believe in space believe the photos come from? Are they completely fabricated? What about the space shuttles? Do they fall out of the sky? They're just up there and then they fall out of the sky. The whole sun and moon and planets thing. People have seen them. All right. So this dovetails nicely into our Ask the Pros question. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jack in Texas, because apparently he's heard Tyler Owens, this Texas Tech DB, share his theories in space. He wants to know if I believe in space. Wait, is this actually Tyler Owens? Tyler, a.k.a. Jack in Texas, asking me if I believe in space. By the way, we wanted to play the audio of him. We have it. He's got a microphone in front of his face, and he's talking about how he doesn't believe in space, and then he equates it to being religious. That part I don't understand. I mean, I go to church. I would say faith is the most important thing in my life, but I don't know what that has to do with not believing in space. Anyway, I think this is actually Tyler who's asking, yes, I do believe in space for a few reasons. We have video, we have photos, but also if you believe that's all fabricated, all of it, because, and I'll use this as an example. A couple weeks ago, we stumbled into this topic on my show, After Hours, where we were asking people, what's the one historical event that you weren't alive to see that you wish you had been able to witness in person or on TV? And mine is the moon landing, because all over the globe, people were glued to their TVs. It was this incredible event that brought not just Americans together, the space race, but the moon landing. And if you don't know, they had to wait 6 hours from the time they landed on the lunar surface until they actually took the first steps onto the moon. 6 hours is middle of the night. People are trying to stay awake. They're sleeping sleeping in front of the TV, making family members wake them up. Pretty incredible, the stories. Okay, so think about it. All of those people who worked at NASA, unless you believe NASA is just a sham too, all those people that worked at NASA, all the countries that were involved in trying to land people on the moon, the various astronauts themselves, or I guess if you don't believe in space, you think that they're just actors. Do you really think, and this is a legit question, do you really think they can all keep a secret like that? Hell no. Not in 2024, where you can be famous by using social media to break some crazy news. Doesn't even have to be truth anymore, right? Are you kidding me? That many people cannot keep a secret. For instance, Cam Newton has a brawl at his youth football event, and it goes viral for the world to see. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. If this was truly fabricated, somebody would be leaking it. Not every single one of those people who were involved in the process of faking a moon landing in a studio in LA somewhere, the people who faked the pictures, there's no way they could all keep the secret 50 plus years later. There's just, it's not a thing. Some humans can keep a secret to their graves, not most humans. We know that. It would be burning a hole in them. They would have to tell. And maybe they told a family member who would then not be sworn to secrecy. I'm just telling you, there's no way people can keep that secret. So I hate to break it. Well, first of all, Jack in Texas, yes, in fact, I do believe in space. I do. And if you have another really intelligent question, you can always tweet us at CBS Sports Radio on Twitter, or you can use Zach Gelb and the hashtag AskThePros. And definitely think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I mean, it doesn't even need to be a sports question. It's not like, don't you love sticks to sports people, where they pretend like the only thing they ever do is talk about sports? Nah. We're not that one-dimensional as humans. Anyway, I do believe in space, and Tyler probably does too. Or at least he will when people get done schooling him after what they've heard from him. The audio wasn't great. It was kind of muddied. Otherwise, we would have played it for you, but it was good. It was real good. So now back to Cam Newton. A video of a brawl breaks out at one of his youth football events. And initially, we didn't hear anything on that video, right? They were cell phone videos. You couldn't hear a whole lot of what was happening, what was being said. And people are waiting for Cam to either take responsibility, to acknowledge. This kind of went viral earlier in the week. Well, he has his show, which he was hosting on Radio Row in Las Vegas. It was the attraction. For our part of Radio Row, CBS Sports Radio, and our various desks and interview spots, we were set up pretty close to Cam. Oh, my goodness. He definitely holds court. Different hats every day. Oh, and impressive that the hat did not come off in the youth football brawl. Anyway, he has now come out and addressed it on his show, which is 4th and 1 on YouTube.
To every single high school player, to every single person of influence, to every single athlete, use my situation as a way to understand that in one moment, in one decision, your life can change. Just like that. I let my emotions get the best of me, and it should not have been called for. Mm-hmm. Simple. With that, I apologize to anybody affected. That just goes to show you, you gotta always stay in control of your emotions. There's no excuse. It's really not.
All right. Raise your hand if you were affected by the brawl at Cam Newton's youth football camp. What does that even mean? If you were affected by it? Is he referring to kids, impressionable young children who now think it's okay to brawl at a youth football game? I mean, come on. That can't be true. But maybe there are a few. Let's hope their parents tell them that's not a good idea. First of all, I'm having a hard time taking it as seriously as he is. Also, it makes me wonder, do you think it was staged? Anybody think it was staged? Just so that he could then issue this very serious apology and remain relevant? No, you're not buying it?
Not after hearing all of the other people who he got into a fight with talking about him and this situation. It sounded very ugly.
So apparently he was trash talking one of the other youth football teams that was run by two guys that used to work for him. So he's, which Cam does very well. We know this. And when he was doing that, a couple of these guys took exception and actually put hands on him. I saw someone else try to throw a punch from behind. It didn't appear as though Cam threw a punch or anything like that. It mostly, if you watch the video, looks like he was holding them off, the other people off. The funny part is he's so big, and then his hat makes him about 6 inches taller. And guys are trying to get at him and try to punch him and hit him, and he's just holding them off with the long arm of the law. Yeah, I just can't take it that seriously. I'm sorry. I could try, I suppose. Maybe if I had a young, impressionable youth football player myself, I would take it more seriously, but not on a Friday afternoon. But thanks so much for the apology, Cam. It's good to know. Thank you, Samter and Stu. Fun to work with you. Have a great weekend, y'all. This is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.